Hey, Slick Talkers, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. And I know that if you love this show, you'll also love my morning show called Good Morning Hospitality with my co hosts Michael Golden and Brandy Canali, as we spend 30 minutes every Monday morning to dive into the industry's top latest news and trending topics. So go check it out on wherever you find your podcasts at Good Morning Hospitality. And you can live stream with us on Monday mornings on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. Now, I hope you enjoy this episode.
They will have to pivot towards different business models, and we are seeing a lot of that, where guest rooms are becoming meeting rooms, they're becoming satellite offices, they're becoming homes away from home for people that are like, I just need to get out of my house, I've been locked in for so long.
Welcome to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast where we discuss all things hospitality, hotels, and business. You can find us online at slicktalkthepodcast.com and on every podcast listening platform.
Welcome back, all my Slick Talkers, to part 2, featuring Oracle Hospitality on the podcast. We talk about their data-driven recovery report and what that looks like. And as you can hear from the intro clip, talking about the different functions and the pivots that hotels have been making during this time of COVID-19 and how their data recovery report was skiffed has shown these trends and, of course, a bunch of other things being carried out throughout the next couple of years. So I'm really excited. Thanks for tuning in. In the show notes, you're going to find everything linking back to Oracle Hospitality and what they've put together and what they do, and super excited to continue this interview with Tanya. So enjoy this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and of course, leave an awesome review on Apple Podcasts and anywhere else you listen. Thanks, guys, and enjoy this part 2 with Oracle Hospitality.
He's kind of like the Joe Rogan of the hospitality industry right now.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. We're doing part 2 with Oracle Hospitality. How have you been, Tanya? It's been, like maybe a couple weeks since we recorded the first episode, which doesn't seem like it because we're scheduling them pretty close together. But I think it's been kind of cool to see you after weeks of being apart and all this crazy COVID and election and all just the current events that has been happening. It's great to see you again.
Great to see you too. It feels like no time has passed at all.
I know. That's what happens when you become best friends, right?
I know. It's like two old friends getting together. Let's just talk about what's happening in the world today. I love it.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, for all the listeners tuning in, we just want to say that if you don't know who Tanya is and who Oracle Hospitality is, what they do, then go listen to part 1. It'll cover everything. Catch up. Come join us back on this episode and join into what we're going to be talking about, which is going to involve trends, obviously, from your guys' data research, things like flexibility with cancellation policies and, non-refundable rates, which has been pretty crazy to watch and to see the stats on that. So I'm really excited to jump in, and I'll kick it off with our first question. So what trends have you seen from the data research when it comes to flexibility in cancellation policies on hotels?
So, Will, we completed our research, I think it was April, May. It was pretty soon after the pandemic hit us. And it seems like a lifetime ago that we asked the industry those questions. And I feel like we can keep asking the same questions every 30 days and the answers will change. Because back then, I think everybody was still hopeful that by the fall, all of this was going to be behind us. And it would just be one of those distant memories that people reference in some sort of history books. And obviously, that's not the case. But what our respondents said to us back then is that everybody's definitely looking for flexibility in the cancellation policies, and it was definitely top of mind and on everybody's wish list. So over 80% of the executives said that they were considering or had already made the changes to allow for more flexible cancellation and refund policies for the guests. The guests, on the other hand, also overwhelmingly said that they would select a hotel company that offered them that flexibility. So I think majority of the industry has recognized that, and they've already started making some of those changes to their revenue management strategies and their overall digital kind of distribution strategies as a whole. So we asked several different questions, such as, were you planning on, are you currently making changes to your policies? Were you planning on making some changes? Are you revising your distribution strategies? Are you removing some of those policies that you had in the past around minimum length of stay requirements? And more than a third consistently answered yes to every one of those questions when we combined it with people that were already in the midst of making the change and those that were considering already making a change. Like I said, on certain questions, we tipped 80%, which really goes to show how quick the industry was to respond to what the guests were saying to them, and frankly, how empathetic the industry was to what was happening around them and to what the guests were saying, which is tremendous.
Yeah, it's very proactive. It was a very proactive response on everybody's part, especially because you think about it. When you're in hospitality, we travel, a lot for our jobs, or we have family members that travel. And so I think that's the coolest part, is that we get to put ourselves in our guest shoes and understanding, like, if I was going to Seattle or wherever, and I had to cancel last minute because of all this, and I wasn't able to get my money back, that would be pretty or at least maybe postpone, like, to be able to schedule it, for a different date. It's a damper. Let's just be honest. It's a damper on everything, especially when people are worried about jobs and income and all the other stuff going on in the world. So I think it's really great to see our industry be really proactive. When I was a hotel manager, we were always battling, with, OTAs on non-refundable rates, in positive and negative ways. That it's a good thing for a lot of hotels to have that on the books income that is there. It's not a guess, it's not a forecast, it's there. What are we seeing now when it comes to those type of rate structures, non-refundables? Does that go into the flexibility of what the proactiveness of hoteliers has been, is by pretty much getting rid of that?
Yeah, I don't think that you were the only one that had that internal battle. I think it's definitely somebody that everybody has felt within the industry on some level or the other. And the travelers have battled with it as well. What has helped, I think, on the hotel side is that the airlines did it first. So in a way, the travelers were almost sort of used to it. They didn't like it, and they would always sort of complain about it because the airlines even had more restrictions around it. But it was somewhere deep in their brain. So when the hotels started doing it, which wasn't decades ago, I mean, 10, maybe 15 years ago at the max, when these sort of very strict policies were being introduced, it was almost like, oh, here we go, kind of following in the trend of what the airlines were doing. So, I mean, the outcome of our study showed that 76% of the travelers would more likely reserve a hotel room at a hotel that did offer more flexible and booking policies. Mm-hmm. So in the end, the market is telling us what needs to be done. Yeah. And that trend will continue. And various hotel companies around the world have already responded to these demands, as I said, and they are taking the steps to provide those additional booking flexibility for their guests. A lot of hotels companies have also adjusted their earning and redemption rules for loyalty programs, so giving more flexibility around the earning and the consumption of those accrued points. And frankly, in the end, when all of this is hopefully behind us, guests will remember that. They will remember those hotel companies that were empathetic, as I said, that were flexible, that offered consumers choices during the bad times, and will carry that loyalty with them in the good times as well. I truly believe that.
No, I couldn't agree more. And I was going to ask, because this is an interesting way to, I think we've seen, the demands there. The guests don't want, to have such a strict booking policy. But do you believe once this is kind of behind us that we'll see the non-refundable rates come back? Because I also seen a lot of hotels pick in like a way to do vouchers. So so the people that have already paid and aren't requesting an instant refund, they're offering another solution to keep revenue on the books as vouchers and prepayments. And do you think that's going to be something that's going to continue to transpire in the industry, especially with hotels?
I do. I think we will see it come back, maybe not in the exact form as we knew it before. I think it will take a long time for people to get truly comfortable in how they were in the past. And you're right. I mean, we need the fencing and we need these prepaid rates because it allows the hotels to build a base, right? They
Yeah.
can forecast better. They understand exactly. They can project their revenues. They know how to schedule their staff. All of that comes into play. You know what I mean? All these sort of different revenue practices, which I know are not transparent to the consumer. To them, it's like, why am I giving you $200 and I'm not going to be staying for 6 months?
Yeah.
Which is, if I kind of think about it in the context of the discussion that we had last time, is that when you're buying air and you're prepaying it, you pretty much know I'm going, right? Because if you cancel the air, you're going to lose a lot more money usually than on the hotel. So you may be more willing to prepay the hotel stay as well. But if that rise in drive-to traffic continues to increase as we've seen it, and as we talked about last time, then all of a sudden, from a consumer perspective, it's like the plans are not necessarily 100% firmed up. So now the fact that you would need to prepay the hotel room, you're like, do I really want to do it? Maybe the day before arrival, I know that I'm coming, but 30 days before arrival, do I really know that I will be able to commit 100%? Because as we've seen over the last 6-7 months, a lot changes even in a week.
Yeah.
Where I am, every other week we have new rules about what we can and cannot do. And no matter how good your plans are and how willing you are to, travel somewhere, if the government says, sorry, you can't go, you can't go. So the industry sort of has to kind of respond to those changes and mandates that have nothing to do with the consumer changing their mind. Like, oh, I have better plans, I'm not going to go. It's literally somebody that's kind of preventing them to do it. But to sort of go back to your original question, I do think that some sort of fencing will need to come back. To just not have it would be too high of a risk, like I said, from a forecasting and projecting revenue perspective and staffing. But definitely the overall playbook may need to change, and how hotels sort of view those long-term rates or prepaid rates will need to change based on how the market demands change.
Yeah. And I love that you brought that in. It's not the guests changing their mind. It's usually based on regulations and other uncontrollable factors. And I think, with the non-refundable rates too, we've seen the booking window close so much. It's no longer a booking, like you said, 6 months or 30 days in advance. It's the day before, to be honest. A lot of even vacation rentals, restaurants, hotels, they're all seeing, they start their day at 7 a.m. with 12% occupancy, and then all of a sudden, boom, it skyrockets up to who knows what number. But it's all the last minute stuff. It's the last minute, we can do it right now, so we can do it right now. It's not, well, I don't know what's going to happen in 30 days. So I think that's a big factor too, is the booking window and the guest. I guess the guest mindset and experience is different than obviously it was pre-COVID. So that has a lot of big factors to it.
No, I completely agree. Those behaviors, and again, I think it's another one of those things that we talked about last time, is that we've sort of dislodged ourselves from our old behavior and adjusted to the new. And now it's going to take some time to dislodge from this again and get into the habit of doing something in a different way again. Fundamentally, the sort of human nature and desire to be with each other and to go experience new and different things will prevail. I honestly believe that, and I will continue to believe it till the end of my days. But it will take some time to get there.
Yeah.
Because people have realized that there's other ways to do things and other ways to behave and other ways to make contact with people that doesn't necessarily involve travel to the same extent that they had in the past. So we'll see it come back, but I think the most recent projections that we've seen take us into 2022, 23, 24, 25. Which is a lot later than originally projected, where it's like, oh, we'll be done by September and business as usual in January of 21. I don't think that we will see that.
No, I agree. Well, now that we're talking about what we'll see in the future, I want to know, what are your predictions for the future of hotels? Because we've seen a lot of cool stuff happen. I had another guest on the show who was part of a virtual event out in Italy. But he said, it's sad that we innovate when we're forced to innovate. We're not always innovating and continuing to be prepared for stuff like this. And so the future of hotels, we're seeing subscription-based model memberships and plans and and apart hotels really thriving right now, and a few other type of destination markets that are outskirts of big cities like Seattle, New York, etc. So I'm kind of curious, what are your guys' predictions, especially from this data driven recovery report? I want to know what you got in store.
Yeah. So first of all, I think the saying goes, don't waste a good disruption, learn from
Mm,
it. And you're right. I think a lot of hotel companies are forced into this different innovation that they would have predicted in the past, right? Nobody would have thought, oh, I'm going to take a guest room and turn it into an office.
yeah,
It just wasn't something that somebody wanted to do until the guest said to them, I can't work from home. My 7-year-old is trying to learn grade 2 math over Zoom. Like,
yeah,
get me out of my house.
yeah,
So they're finding ways to say, okay, well, we have this underutilized inventory. People are no longer flying in and staying in my hotel. How do I repurpose it for something else? So they will have to pivot towards different business models. And we are seeing a lot of that, where guest rooms are becoming meeting rooms. They're becoming satellite offices. They're becoming homes away from home for people that are like, I just need to get out of my house. I've been locked in for so long.
yeah,
So we're seeing a lot of that. A lot of demand for contactless. That's something the conversation started years ago on that, but it was one of those that it's like, we'll get to it when we can. Some hotel companies did it better than others. They were right out there sort of pushing the envelope when it came to digital key, online check-ins, and really making sort of a contactless check-in experience or a front desk-less check-in experience. And we're starting to see that more and more and more, not just from some of the larger brands, but even the independents for whom you would say this wasn't something that they were considering on investing in.
yeah,
What I'm sort of have been asking myself is, let's say fast forward the clock 12 months, maybe even 18 months, right? When things sort of get back into some sort of a groove and people's cravings for travel and for interaction and for experiences resume, will they now demand more face-to-face time? Will now part of the hotel experience be the check-in? Whereas before, if you were to say, oh no, check-in is just a necessary evil. It's just somebody to give me my key and tell me where the elevator is, right? And
yeah,
tell me how late the pool is open. But for those of us that have sort of been deprived and feel starved of that human experience over the last 7 months, will all those little things and interactions that we used to take for granted now be something that we look forward to? So it will be interesting to get your key. It will all of a sudden be interesting again to, be told where the elevator is and where the pool is and whatnot. I think for some, yes, I
mhm,
really do believe that. For some, it will be no, I just want to go straight to my room. But what we have to do as an industry, both from a hotel management perspective as well as anybody that provides technologies, is give the consumer options and
yes,
choice. So
yeah,
it's not one way to do business with a hotel. It's here's all the different ways in which you can do business with a hotel. And if for you, that means you want to go from your car to your room and never see a human being, great. We have that option for you. And for somebody that it's like, here's their lobby, here is their coffee shop, here's, the restaurants that we have, here's all the grounds, that's okay too.
yeah.
So it's about making everybody feel comfortable and safe and valued in that interaction, regardless of what they want that interaction to be.
Yeah.
So to me, it will be more and more about offering different choices to the consumer instead of mandating this is the only way that you can interact with our business.
Well, it's a crazy way to think about it, but it's just flexibility at a high level. We talk about flexibility and cancellation policies and stuff, but it's flexibility in just operating and no longer expecting every guest to have a curated, travel experience that's the same as everybody else. And I love that. And I, talking to another hotel, Kempton brand in Chicago, they're using dayuse.com as an OTA. They're using these functions that we're talking about, co-working and subscription based contactless experiences. They're renting out whole floor parts of the hotel to businesses that are able to bring their staff and do that satellite thing. it's really cool to see. I even saw one where they were doing a podcast studio. They had a podcast studio that you could use as like a date. I was like, man, if I was in Chicago, I would be there. I'd be doing it. But I think it's becoming, like you said, more flexible on how we operate. And then, it's interesting because even this like last weekend, I did a staycation at a W hotel in Seattle, and Marriott Bonvoy member. So of course checked in on the mobile app, got my mobile key, but then I was in my room, got ready for dinner and drinks, and then was able to go then and have that human to human interaction on my terms. And that's why I think, we can talk about it, and it was cool to experience because all the headache was out of the way. I got to curate how I wanted my experience to be. And then when I was ready to speak with somebody and have that good, positive staff interaction, it was nothing but perfect because there's no other stressors. There's no other, you need to do it this way when I had other plans or, so just again, flexibility has been the biggest key, I think, for all of this. And it's been cool to see the industry kind of awaken and shift that way a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I often think to myself, even over the last 20 years, sort of traveling both professionally and personally, I always feel like there were two sides to me as a traveler. There was the business traveler that just wanted to go from a taxi to my hotel room. Like, don't talk to me. I know what I'm doing. I usually stayed at the same places. And even if it was a new place, that was like, I just want to get to my room. Yeah. And then when I traveled on leisure, my expectations were different. And my kind of how I wanted to interact with the hotel team was different. I wanted to know about the activities. I wanted to know about the food and beverage offerings. I wanted to know about all the amenities that existed at the hotel. And I didn't find it laborious or annoying that people wanted to talk to me about it.
Yeah.
So again, different people will have different needs, but even the same person, depending on why they're there, will have different expectations as well. So again, it's just about offering them those options, recognizing that they may have different needs than somebody else, and recognizing that their need today may be a little bit different than it was last week when they stayed, and being flexible in such a way and adapting to it and recognizing. To me, that goes to sort of the next level of personalization and what will keep people loyal and coming back because they will be emotionally connected.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, do you think this is a trend that will continue after, this is all over, or do you see more maybe backpedaling?
Definitely a trend that will continue. It should. It's the right thing to do, and probably something that should have been done years ago, but there were other things to do, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like there's not enough initiatives that are taking place in a hotel every single day, and every single one of them probably require a process, and they require people to be trained and often need some kind of resources, either monetary or people-wise, to help support it. So there were other things that took precedence, but seeing the opportunities that can come out, especially revenue related or reducing cost of sale or some sort of a kind of optimizing operational efficiencies, seeing the benefits of all of that, they should continue. And maybe they'll evolve over time. Maybe other things will trump it, so they'll need to sort of take a back seat. But things like contactless are offering choice. Things are using or kind of transforming your unused inventory for a different purpose that you may not have considered in the past, which may not have been kind of what it was designed to do, should continue.
Couldn't agree more. It's like you just took the words right out of my mouth.
That's what okay. Part 3 will look like. Part 3 will just, I'll ask the questions and you answer them.
Perfect. We'll just, actually, you're just going to become a new co-host. How about that? We'll just make this a weekly thing. Perfect.
I love it.
All right, everybody. You heard it. It's happened here on the show. Just kidding. Well, I want to ask, because this has been a great catch up, and I think you bring a lot of insight, obviously, with your guys' study. There's so much information, and it's really just, it's a good resource, and it's a tool that I've actually looked back on, as I've been doing other projects and other things involving, obviously hospitality. But I want to know what else is new with you guys for the, maybe some updates about Oracle Hospitality and announcements that you can share with the listeners today.
Well, thank you for that opening. I can't wait to tell you about what we've been doing, and we've done a lot of really, really amazing things. And I'm so proud of the new levels of innovation that we have been able to reach over the last 2 years. But one of the things that I wanted to tell you about today is what we called our Oracle Hospitality Integration Platform. And we have this kind of tagline, which is difficult to convey without video, because imagine me holding my hands really wide apart, that says that Oracle Hospitality is seriously open. And what this means is that it's a truly a meaningful way to describe our open architecture that defines our products, especially our Opera Cloud offering. And as I said, recently we launched the general release of the Oracle Hospitality Integration Platform, or OHIP as we call it. And OHIP is our next generation integration solution, which centralizes, consolidates, and streamlines all our interface capabilities and related processes into a single and unified platform. It allows all our users, partners, hotels, distribution channels, and unprecedented self-service experiences, from discovering a rich set of hospitality REST APIs to adopting them in a customer or partner application to publishing their usage in our cloud marketplace. So it will truly revolutionize how our users interact with Opera, not just for our own UIs, but like I said, by utilizing these APIs to power their own solutions at their end. So much faster adoption of new technologies and innovations, leveraging our partner network and the industry as a whole to help accelerate innovation at all levels. Whereas before, one might have kind of faulted us for being a little bit closed off. Now it's all about being open and allowing the market to innovate right along with us.
So as a hotel general manager or front office manager, I'm no longer having to log into 20 different tabs in order to find all these certain things. I'm not having to log into a CRM and a PMS and all these other backend stuff. I'm able to do it just on one platform with you guys.
That is definitely going to be an option for you. But the example that I like to use a lot, and this was certainly my reality when I worked on the hotel side of things, is that there would often be let's say a startup that had a really great guest service app. And they would come in and do the pitch and show how this is something fantastic and users would love it. And then the next question we would ask is like, oh, okay, great, but do you integrate to any of the operational systems? Do you integrate to Opera PMS as an example? And their answer would be no. Well, we'd be like, okay, well, that's great. I love your app, but I'll see you in 2 years when you can develop this integration. So all of that is sort of going away. This new, startup or even an existing partner can simply go to the integration platform, become a part of the partner network, subscribe to the APIs, and then be able to develop on top of it. So what used to be a multi-year and a fairly expensive process can now takes much less time, which then allows the hotel to, like I said, innovate faster, get to market faster, and realize all those revenue opportunities. So that's really exciting, not just for us and Oracle Hospitality, but for all our customers and all our partners, and frankly, the industry as a whole.
Yeah, so it's now taking everything we talked about with flexibility and being able to do these certain innovations and being flexible with how hotels can now do that, instead of saying, well, we can't do it because this doesn't integrate with that, and it makes a 2-step process, a 20-step process. That's pretty incredible.
Absolutely, yeah. And then the other one that I wanted to make you aware of is what we call Opera Cloud Services Foundation. So we have been in the market with 2 product offerings, Opera Cloud Services Standard and Opera Cloud Services Premium. And they're really, the difference between them is just a number of different features and functions that you turn on in the product. But we also recognize that there was an entire area of the market that we were not necessarily friendly towards from a product perspective. Their perception was perhaps that Opera was too cumbersome, had too many features and functionality, and not something that suits their business needs. So we introduced a lower tier offering called Opera Cloud Services Foundation, which is limited to 30 Opera functions, but is really meant to serve sort of those limited service and mid-scale customers that just need simplified product offering. They don't need all the bells and whistles. They're, like I said, limited service or economy brands. They just need a simplified offering. They want faster user onboarding. They want intuitive applications, and they wanted a cloud offering. So we are out in the market with that. Very, very exciting. The response has been tremendous because people are like, finally, now there's an Opera for me. So we now have a different flavor, not quite Baskin Robbins 21 flavors, but our the three different foundation, standard and premium, really kind of allows us to contribute to the entire market. From sort of the smaller end hotels to the luxury brands, and have one single Opera for them.
So when I get my first hotel, I can call you guys and just get that solution right then and there.
You don't even have to call me. I'll know. I'll call
Perfect.
you.
Okay.
Right there. Guest number one.
That's awesome. Well, that sounds really incredible because, like, we discussed on the first episode, is that I'm a fan of Opera. I used it for my first hotel. I'm pretty sure I can go back to that hotel, get behind a desk, and continue to operate the way I used to 5 years ago. But I just, it's super cool to see the innovation, especially during the times that we're in. So it's yeah, I'm geeking out over this. I'm like, oh, okay. I gotta go buy a hotel like pretty much tomorrow, so I can start, geeking out on the software. But no, seriously, thank you so much for sharing this stuff with myself and of course the audience, and then for being on the show for not once but twice. And so it's been pretty cool and exciting to talk with you about all this awesome stuff.
My pleasure, Will. I've really, really enjoyed talking to you. Hope we get to do it again.
Yes, and in person, and I'll have to, of course, get you a coffee or something like that and pick your brain a little bit more.
I love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. For all the Slick Talkers out there, if you're listening, well, obviously you're listening because you're hearing me talk right now. But all the show notes are going to have everything that we've talked about. It's going to have the links and the information that you need if you want to learn a little bit more. So thank you guys, and tune in next week.
Thank you so much for listening. We love your support and want to provide the best we can to all our listeners. So please find us online, social media, and on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast.
What's up, everybody? If you've gotten this far into the episode of Slick Talk, the Hospitality Podcast, then you are amazing, and thank you so much for tuning in. We want to send you two places really quickly. If you can, check out the show notes and click the hospitality.fm link. Check out all of our other shows on the podcast network. And don't forget, if you have someone that you want to hear on the podcast, then fill out the guest fill out form so that way we can get them on the show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy another episode of Slick Talk, the Hospitality Podcast.